Walkthrough attractions have been around for more than a century. In fact, Walt originally envisioned both Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion as walkthrough experiences, until emerging ride technologies offered higher capacity ways to cycle guests through experiences. Still, walkthroughs remain across Disney and Universal parks, from sweet asides to special effects spectaculars. And today, we teamed up again with Park Lore to take a look at 16 spectacular walkthrough attractions at theme parks around the globe. Make sure to stay till the end of the video for a special offer just for the Duck Squad.
Be part of the Duck Squad by subscribing and turning all the notifications on. And follow us on TikTok for more theme park content. Or leave a link in the description.
Sleeping Beauty Castle Walkthrough, Disneyland. Sleeping Beauty Castle has been the icon of Disneyland since 1955, 4 years before Sleeping Beauty would debut in theaters. Still, the castle was one of the first areas where Walt himself saw lost potential. A smaller upper level inside the petite forced perspective castle had been used as a storage when Walt challenged his designers to find a better use for the space. Before the park's second birthday, a walkthrough opened there, inviting guests to step through highly artistic dioramas retelling the tale of Sleeping Beauty, in a style reflecting that of the film's production designer, Eyvind Earle. The dioramas were redesigned in 1977, though fans criticized the 77 move away from Earle's style and towards dioramas better fit for the windows of the Emporium. But the entire display closed on October 1st, 2001, some said as a precautionary measure after the attacks on New York a month earlier. In truth, a mix of safety, operation costs, and accessibility issues probably played a role. In a surprise to fans, the walkthrough reopened in 2008 with entirely new displays, again reflecting Earle's style, but infused with 21st century technology. The walkthrough remains a charming hidden gem of Disneyland. The Mysteries of the Nautilus, Disneyland Paris. Given that a stark white Tomorrowland echoing the American space age would be of little interest to Europeans, designers of Disneyland Paris went back to basics, literally. There, Discoveryland is a golden sea and spaceport inspired by classic 19th century literature. With a Victorian steampunk style reflecting the future as envisioned from the past, the land includes multiple allusions to Jules Verne, once including the fantastic and sadly retired Space Mountain, From the Earth to the Moon, and Le Visionarium. In the bubbling geothermal lagoon outside Space Mountain is docked the Nautilus, Nemo's fabled ship from 20,000 leagues under the sea. Descending down a spiral staircase, guests appear to cross under the lagoon and into the Nautilus, open for a full walkthrough tour that includes the ballast compartment, the charts room, the diving chamber, the engine room, and, most legendary of all, the Grand Salon, where a massive shutter porthole occasionally opens to reveal an attack by an audio-animatronic giant squid, repelled at the last moment by an electrical charge. Cinderella Castle Mystery Tour, Tokyo Disneyland. There's perhaps no stranger Disney Parks attraction to have ever been built than Cinderella Castle Mystery Tour. Located in Tokyo Disneyland's copy of Magic Kingdom's iconic castle, a guided walkthrough led by a cast member, the tour initially promised views into the castle's ballrooms, towers, and galleries, until a villainous interruption by the magic mirror leads to a spooky descent into the castle's dark corridors and dungeons. Guests are guided through the Wicked Witch's dark magic laboratory, past shivering suits of armor and ancient torture devices, reanimated skeletons, ghouls from Maleficent armies, and, oddest of all, a finale built around the 1985's The Black Cauldron and its absolutely terrifying villain, the Horned King. The Mystery Tour was replaced by the much more sedate Cinderella's Fairy Tale Hall walkthrough, melding dioramas, interactive props, and photo opportunities, somewhat like Disneyland's Sleeping Beauty version. However, Tokyo's benefits from taking place in and around the grand space in the castle, where Florida guests would expect Cinderella's Royal Table restaurant to be. Bodine Bakery Tour, Disney's California Adventure. When Disney's California Adventure opened in 2001, executives hoped to position the park as the grown-up alternative to Disneyland, keeping the park low on rides and Disney characters, and instead emphasizing pop culture, food, wine, and beer. Take the Pacific Wharf area, themed after San Francisco's Fisherman's Wharf and Cannery Row. From day one, The park offered a replica of Bodine's sourdough bread factory, as well as a Mission Tortilla factory tour, inviting guests to literally step along the factory process, from mother dough to finished product. The real, actual bread is then used in bread bowls and sandwiches at the Pacific Wharf Cafe. The bakery tour survived California Adventure's 2012 reopening, and even managed to keep its most beloved feature: free samples on sourdough bread for each guest as they enter. Another holdover from 2 decades ago, the tour is hosted by Colin Mockery and Rosie O'Donnell, stars on ABC at the time the park opened. Tom Sawyer Island, Disneyland. Opened just a year after Disneyland itself, Tom Sawyer Island is a hallmark of any visit to the parks in Anaheim, Orlando, or Tokyo. And in keeping with the decades-old traditions, the island is packed with imaginative play experiences, like floating barrel bridges, spooky caves to explore, docks, climbable forts, and more. Though fans groan when the extra cautious Disney occasionally removes some of the island's wilder features, like seesaws, merry-go-rounds, ladders, or tree houses, it's nothing if not astounding that Disney continues to expend precious real estate in the top 3 most well-attended theme parks on Earth for open play islands that lack merchandising, are accessible only by cast-operated raft, and that look, well, pretty much how they did in Walt's time. That said, Disneyland's island became Pirates' Lair on Tom Sawyer Island in 2007, excused away as Tom and Huck playing an imaginary game of pirates, but really a ham-fisted attempt to add Pirates of the Caribbean experiences to the island, which actually did enhance the experiences with the new interactives. Since both Disneyland Paris and Hong Kong Disneyland set their Adventurelands in the spot normally reserved for Frontierland, they both have explorable islands too, featuring Swiss Family Robinson and Tarzan's treehouses respectively, but their adventure isles are connected to the park via bridges, not rafts. Fortress Explorations, Tokyo Disney Sea. There's perhaps no more spectacular story in all of Disney Parks canon than that of Sea, the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. The Legend of Sea is a subtle, cross-continental frame story that unites multiple Disney rides, shows, and even restaurants into a massive, extended universe, connecting characters you might never expect. And it all started at Fortress Explorations, the headquarters of the Renaissance-era chapters of Sea. The fortress itself is a massive multi-story palace set into the cooled lava flows of Tokyo Disney Sea's iconic Mount Prometheus. Guests can climb into the ramparts and towers, dart across bridges, and explore the rooftops as they desire. What's coolest, though, is that the fortress is essentially a science museum within a theme park, offering a navigation room of remote-controlled ships sailing across an ancient world map, a 3-story Foku pendulum, galleries of artwork and illusions, a real working camera obscura, a geological monitoring station embedded in the volcano, and in the central Golden Dome, a massive planetarium where guests can move the planetary models with wooden cranks and gears. Poseidon's Fury, Escape from the Lost City, Universal's Islands of Adventure. When Islands of Adventure opened in 1999, it was billed as the world's most technologically advanced theme park, and believe it or not, the Poseidon's Fury was one of the most advertised and talked about attractions to help it earn that title. Drawn into waterlogged ruins of the lost city, guests found themselves caught in an ancient battle between the evil Poseidon, whose massive toppled statue outside serves as the attraction's iconic entry, and the righteous Zeus. Guided by an old man called the Keeper, guests would advance through the temple's chambers, learning of the ancient myth of Poseidon and Zeus, until ultimately reaching the attraction's epic crescendo. A walk through a 40-foot-long, 18-foot-wide vortex of water spinning around guests, leading them to the ruins of Atlantis deep underwater, and to a special effects-filled final battle between the animated gods and their control over water and fire. A surprising finale even had guests apparently be magically transported out of the collapsing city, and back to a room they'd been in previously. Soon after reopening, the attraction underwent a major redesign. Poseidon became the hero against an evil high priest, Lord Darkanon, both played by live actors on screen rather than animated characters, and neither matching the collapsed statue outside. The tour guide became a young archaeologist, Taylor, and a significant rewrite to recast the final teleportation effect. The point was to make Poseidon's Fury's story clearer, and while it probably succeeded, it's hard to argue that one version is altogether better than the other. The Lost Continent was one of just 2 islands at Islands of Adventure to be entirely original. Sadly, Poseidon's Fury is all that's left of the land. The Merlinwood area became Hogsmeade, and the Sinbad's Bazaar area recently had its long-running stunt show shut down. So it's a real shame that Universal hasn't found a way to make this special effects show the headliner it really could be. Still, it's an impressive and decidedly different kind of attraction we'd like to see Universal try more of. Aladdin's Enchanted Passage, Disneyland Paris. Disneyland Paris's Adventureland is perhaps the most unusual of any Disney parks. For Magic Kingdom guests, the easiest way to understand it is that Paris's Adventureland is essentially a place where you'd expect Frontierland and Liberty Square. It is comprised of neighborhoods stretching around the Swordsman's Sea, a Rivers of America equivalent, including Caribbean Plaza, a colonial Indiana Jones-themed area, the Swiss Family Robinson and pirate-themed Adventure Isle, rather than Tom Sawyer Island, and the Bazaar, an area dedicated to Aladdin. Aladdin's Enchanted Passage is only the first walkthrough from Disneyland Paris to make our list, with small vignette scenes celebrating Aladdin, a film that opened in theaters 7 months after Disneyland Paris. While it's a saturated cartoon walkthrough of fun displays, it does suffer from looking more like Emporium window displays than authentic Arabian-influenced retellings of the tale, and ultimately it only goes to further our amazement that Aladdin has still never gotten a full classic dark ride of its own yet. Still, for adding to Paris's list of hidden gems, we have to give it credit. If I Ran the Zoo, Universal's Islands of Adventure. When Universal set to build out a second theme park in Orlando, their Islands of Adventure concept promised to prove that they too could create Disney-style lands, not just studio sound stages. In acquiring the rights to Marvel and Jay Ward's Sunday Funnies, as well as the original Lost Continent and Jurassic Park, they had almost everything they needed. But for the park's Fantasyland equivalent, they went big. No one had yet acquired the rights to build attractions based on the beloved stories of Dr. Seuss. That's thanks to the rightfully protective requirements of Seuss's widow, Audrey Geisel. Her insistence on textures, colors, details, and quality of any Seuss product created Seuss Landing, a nautical port of Seuss stories. If I Ran the Zoo is, like so many attractions on this list, a mere aside that many guests probably walk right past. What is it? Well, it's a playground, walkthrough, and splash park in one. Guests can climb and slide through the attraction where whimsical Seussian creatures abound, activating Toontown-style gags and reading Seussian rhymes at each stop. One of the most fun, for example, positions water sprayers around a creature submerged in a bathtub. Spray it and it will rise up from the water and begin to spin, showering guests in water. It's exactly the sort of out-of-the-way walkthrough that adds life and energy to the park. The Dragons Lair, Disneyland Paris. Yet another spectacular walkthrough at Disneyland Paris is one of the park's most talked about hidden gem. Guests who happen to wander into the caverns carved into the hillside behind the park's Sleeping Beauty's castle will encounter a misty, cool dungeon of stalactites and steam, and there, sleeping in the water, is a dragon, one of the rare opportunities to see an animatronic outside of a ride. Like a sleeping cat, the dragon's massive claw twitches and expands, resting in a pool of water as it occasionally shuffles and settles. Every few minutes, the dragon awakes, lifting its massive head and blinking as it recognizes the guest staring at it. Its nose may smoke as it growls and shuffles, the chains holding it to the floor rattling. As if remembering that it's hopelessly trapped, the dragon eventually relents and goes back to sleep. Still, the face-to-face encounter is so fascinating and so spectacular. It's become one of Disneyland Paris's most beloved features. Imagineering fans could spend an hour watching the dragon's subtle yet sophisticated routine. Alice's Curious Labyrinth, Disneyland Paris. Free exploration attractions are rare at Disney parks, where things like capacity and throughout matter a great deal. But Alice's Curious Labyrinth at Disneyland Paris is a spectacular exception. Divided into a simpler Tugly Wood first half and a more complex Queen of Hearts maze second half, the attraction includes whimsical touches like leaping fountains, mismatched directional signs, oversized props, and character encounters. In expected Disney fashion, every path leads somewhere, even if it's to a dead end with props and interactives. Guests who make it to the maze's center may climb the Queen's Castle, providing a lookout opportunity over Fantasyland. A similar attraction debuted at Shanghai Disneyland in 2016, albeit themed to the live-action Alice in Wonderland film series from the 2010s rather than the original 1951 animated film. Nocturne Alley, Universal Studios, Florida. The dark and sinister counterpart to the jolly and whimsical Diagon Alley, Nocturne Alley at Universal Studios Florida is a bit of a hidden aside tucked away down a nondescript side street, branching from the main avenue. But guests who do wander down the darkened side street with little more than a small wooden sign pointing the way find themselves in the surprisingly expansive alley under cloudy, dark night skies. Eerie effects abound along the street, including chances to see the moving wanted posters of some of the film's more legendary Death Eaters, encounters with windows overcome by spiders, and the unique opportunity to encounter another animatronic outside an attraction. In this case, speaking Parseltongue with a snake in a window who follows you as you move. Nocturne Alley also has the Borgin and Burke's shop, the de facto suppliers of dark magic and pro-pureblood memorabilia. As with the rest of Diagon Alley, though, the highlight must be opportunities, tucked away from crushing crowds, to use interactive wands to light a candle that has an effect on a caged bird, to animate a skeleton that mirrors your movements, and to make a window of shrunken heads sing. Maharajah Jungle Trek, Disney's Animal Kingdom. It's become the norm for zoos to evolve from standalone animal exhibits, or even grouped by country enclosures, into more naturalistic walk-through attractions of their own, setting animal enclosures among themed spaces and seemingly borderless habitats. But of course, Disney's are perhaps among the best, with both Animal Kingdom's Africa and Asia featuring New Age wildlife walk-through paths. In Asia, it's the Maharajah Jungle Trek. Animal lovers will delight in seeing gibbons, flying foxes, Komodo dragons, and deer, as well as an aviary with over 50 species of exotic birds. But even better, the beautiful storytelling of Disney Imagineers creates an entire story for the attraction, for those who care to look, explaining how the nearby village of Anandapur was once a stopover for the kingdom's Maharaja, who used the ruins outside of town as his own personal hunting ground, before being killed in a karmic hunting accident himself. Evidence throughout signals that the land came under British colonial rule for a time before returning to the ownership of the villagers, who restored the royal hunting grounds into a nature preserve, leading to the hollowed tomb of the founder of the kingdom of Anandapur. As with so many things, it means that there's more than meets the eye with the simple animal enclosures, creating a sort of mythology and legend that extends to the whole land, for those who know to look for it. Hogwarts, Universal's Islands of Adventure. When the Wizarding World of Harry Potter made its debut in 2010, it revolutionized theme parks by launching an area of living lands, creating entirely immersive areas plucked from physical places seen on screen. The land's anchor attraction, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey, takes place within the iconic Hogwarts castle, looming high on a rocky outcropping over the snowy village of Hogsmeade. However, the attraction within is a fairly intense and somewhat scary dark ride. Luckily, Universal created a workaround, the interior queue, passing through the Wizarding School's iconic hallways, classrooms, dungeons, greenhouses, and halls is an attraction in its own right, literally. Aside from the regular queue and Universal Express queue, a third path through the castle traces the queue's layout, just with no ride at the end. It's the perfect way to take in the castle's enchanted paintings, classrooms, and characters. Camp Discovery, Shanghai Disneyland. Shanghai Disneyland was a massive reinvention for Imagineers, who essentially dispensed with the tried-and-true layout and lands of Disney's castle parks, and started from scratch. Gone is Adventureland, replaced with Adventure Isle, an immersive land where guests join the League of Adventurers, who have discovered the tropical island home of the native Arbori people. The peaceful relationship between the groups has allowed the League to set up Camp Discovery, a home base for exploring the island's mythical features. As if taking Disney's California Adventures Redwood Creek Challenge Trail and upping the ante, Camp Discovery is a you'd never see that in America attraction, using real high rope course elements, passing over river gorges and along sheer cliffs. Guests strap in to tackle teetering steps, leap over open chasms, climb ropes, and inch-along literal chasms. You literally have to see it to believe it. 3 different trials each reveal more of the island's backstory. Swiss Family Treehouse, Magic Kingdom. There can be no sweeter walkthrough for Disney Parks history buffs than another all-time classic, the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, initially opened at Disneyland in 1962. Based on the 1960 Swiss Family Robinson film about a shipwrecked family building an island home, Magic Kingdom's opening day version of the attraction is 70 feet tall and 80 feet wide. Guests climb 116 steps up and down as they navigate through the tree's branches, gazing in at rooms the family has managed to construct in the canopy and the famous water system that carries clean water to the tree's height. The Swiss Family Treehouse can be found at Magic Kingdom, Disneyland Paris, and Tokyo Disneyland. In 1999, the Disneyland original was reimagined as Tarzan's Treehouse, which also opened alongside Hong Kong Disneyland in 2005. In hindsight, Tarzan wasn't quite evergreen enough to warrant the reimagining of such a Walt original classic, even if the overlay was needed at the time to convince executives not to remove the attraction entirely. Not that Swiss Family Robinson is any more well known. In fact, it's almost certain that many times more people have walked through the Swiss Family Treehouse than have seen the film it's based on. All these walkthrough attractions are spectacular, but there's so much more to discover. This is just one countdown you can find on a brand new site for Imagineering fans, Park Lore. It's the place to explore the complete in-depth stories of the best rides from around the globe. The terrifying true story of alien encounter, the wonders of Journey into Imagination, the never-built Westcott Park. Visit parklore.com to dig in. And if you love what you see, our friends at Park Lore have a special offer for you. Sign up for a silver pass to parklore.com using the discount code FastpassFacts to get a monthly membership for just $5 a month. With a silver pass, you can unlock rare concept art, stream high-quality attraction audio, receive a membership card in the mail, and access dozens of extra features like this one. Park Lore. Discover the stories behind the rides. Check the link in the description and become a member. Hope you enjoyed this video, Duck Squad. See you next week.